quick check on the Philippine markets. This Holy Tuesday, the PSCI opens lower by nearly 0.25% at 6,131, still above the 6,100 level. Stock market extended the winning streak to 4 sessions, gaining by 1%. As for the Philippine peso, it opens slightly stronger at 57 3 cents to the dollar. Peso closed yesterday, Monday, weaker at 57 8 cents against the greenback. Any moment now, Cebu Land Masters reports earnings. This as the Cebu-based real estate firm ramps up expansion plans in Visayas and Mindanao. Well, with us now for more is Jasper Ondap, the Equity Analyst at Regina Capital Development Corporation. Good to see you, Jasper. Welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning, Kathy. Thank you for having me.
So what are you expecting from Cebu Land Masters?
Well, I guess Cebu Land Master really is a very good company in the property sector. And a lot of property analysts have already said this, that the noise in the metro or the noise and oversupply in condos and properties in Metro Manila heavily affected the real estate. But Cebu Land Masters portfolio is majority of which are found in these main areas. And as of 9 months, they have around 40% over in Cebu, 30% in Mindanao, and more than 20% in other areas of Visayas. And they are quite very unaffected by this noise and oversupplies. And particularly, a lot of these developers now are actually reaching out or developing areas outside of Metro Manila, for there is actually a strong demand for properties there. And I guess the latest news from CLI with a sellout of 4 billion in just 2 days just gives us an idea of how strong the demand are in the Visayas and Mindanao areas, such as in Cagayan, which immediately just took off the 4 billion sell-off.
Looking beyond property and those that are regionalized, it really much is a stock picker's market. So how do we now pick and choose smartly? As every other publicly listed company has either got some exposure going on overseas, if not directly through investments, through debt denominated in dollars.
So again, if we just take a look in the market right now. Year to date, we're losing in the PSE about more than 5% right now. But a lot of the stocks or names or some certain industries are gaining more than 5%. For example, financials, the banks are relatively performing well. BPI and BDO gaining more than 5% in year to date. And the utility sectors gaining more than around 10%. Say Meralco and Manila Waters are gaining traction in this market. So again, the trading strategy in comparison, not just only in the domestic, but even if you look at or zoom out in the regional markets, in the emerging markets, a lot of the index are really down by more than 5%. This is not just because of a local issuer or a local problems, but rather just an overall spill off from the US tariff that Trump's administration put off. And really, in the stock pickers market, you really have to take into consideration the risk that you have. Look out for stocks that are actually having an upside. And if you are one of the investors who are actually having to look for safety, you might pick one of those stocks who are quite on the side of a fixed income in nature. Some of the conglos are giving out more than 10% in cash dividends. Some utility sector give out more than 4%, 5%, and consumers, some are even giving out more than 4 to 6%. So these are some sectors or names that you might actually look for in or have to analyze in trading in this market right now.
Well, let me pick up in financials. They've been doing pretty well before the resumption of the Bangko Sentral rate cut. Are they still a good pick, given that net interest margins may very well thin out as rates come off?
Yeah, for sure. I would say so that I guess at least the top 3 banks right now, right, that were really performing well. We're seeing BDO lately have been performing quite well. Maybe it's just too volatile with the market since last week with the reciprocal tariff and then the pause and then another exemptions and then, what's happening in the US. But relatively, the banks have really been performing well. The earnings backs out for it. And if you want to look out for financials that give out good cash dividends, Metrobank is there giving out more than 5%. So I would say so that the banks or the financial sector at least is still a very good pick in this market.
When you look more broadly, Jasper, foreign outflows in emerging markets have been a sustained feature since Trump's tariffs wiped out all of the risk appetites. Net value turnover down to 3 billion pesos pesos of a level, pretty dismal from the usual 5 to 6 billion. So how does the PSEI compare with the rest of our ASEAN peers?
Yeah, so if we just zoom out for a bit, if we just take a look at the foreign institutional investors' outflows, as of year to date, around India, Korea, and Taiwan already has an outflow of more than $10 billion. Indonesia and Malaysia over $2 billion in outflows, and Thailand at around $1 to $1.4 billion. And the whole ASEAN right now is actually more than $6 billion in outflows in dollars for year to date in 2025. The Philippines, however, only has $0.2 to $0.3 billion in outflows. So what does that tells us? So maybe there is still a demand, or maybe the foreign investors are looking after Philippines having this upside because, as you know, in previous quarter, a lot of these firms or foreign investors are looking out, giving out a projection of the PSAI of up to 8,000 levels. But still, if we just to take a look at the outflows, Philippines is really at the very bottom. So maybe there's a silver lining for us to actually gain traction going forward throughout this year with the higher consumer spending, the election spending coming up, boosting domestic consumption that hopefully uplifts our economy. So I guess if we just take a look at least at this section of the foreign investor outflows in dollars, the Philippines is really faring well in comparison to the fellow emerging markets.
Jasper, we got about a minute to go still. We got to watch the currency. I mean, you look at the Colombian peso, the Indonesian rupiah, those fell the most among EM currencies last week. And China on Monday just cut its yuan fixing to the weakest levels in September 2023. So, how are you seeing our peso levels indicating where foreign flows go next?
Yeah, so I guess with this US, with everything that's going on, again, the emerging markets has been experiencing a spill off of what's happening. And of course, the US dollar is going down. The Philippine peso is faring well as comparison to last quarter where peso was at 59. Now we're doing at 57, almost going to now to higher 56.90s. And I guess the money at least is going to several asset class. We're seeing now gold reaching all-time high 3.2. Maybe fixed income on the other hand are going fairly strong with mid-tenors effectively very active right now. So there has been trading in those asset class as well.
All right, lots to choose from. Thank you so much for joining us, Jasper Ondap of Regina Capital Development Corporation, sussing out the risk appetites there of investors.